Hello, everyone, and welcome to another incredible episode of Empowered Conversations, where I have amazing conversations with extraordinary people who are out in the world doing beautiful things in service to others and all around living their best lives, living lives with intention and on purpose. And guys, that's none other than my guest today, Holly McNeill. By age 34, the perfect world Holly thought she had built for herself to hide her perceived flaws and defects imploded. At the lowest point of her unhappy, anxiety-filled, self-absorbed life, she promised to do better and spent the next 20 years making good on that vow. Her search took her across the country and from coast to coast. She read books, listened to teachings, attended retreats, and followed her newfound intuition. For 6 years, Holly practiced Buddhism, in part living in a Dharma house in San Francisco. Her quest would create the P.E.R.L.O.V.E formula. Today, using this effective and friendly set of mindfulness and meditation practices, she is teaching others to find their power and personal freedom. So, guys, help me. I am adding her to the Instagram. Help me and welcoming, yes, drum roll, please. Woo-hoo! Holly McNeill.
Hi, did I get on Instagram? Yes, excellent. Hello. Hi, Stephanie.
Yes.
Thank you so
Okay,
much for having me today.
You are so welcome. And it says you joined, but I am trying to add.
There we go.
I'm
Go
trying
live.
to add you. There you go. Invite.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where we're going to have to start. We have to turn our volume down.
Yep.
On our phone, because I had to do the same thing.
Turn
and you've got your camera on Instagram turned to your beautiful outside trees.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's okay.
Flip it. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yay! Awesome.
There. Excellent.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Holly. It's such an incredible honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, it's just wonderful to have you. And I hear a slight echo.
Yeah, that is your. I can't seem to get the volume all the way down. Let me just see.
You have your phone on mute. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I have some people that are joining.
Yep, I have it on mute.
Okay. All right. Well, we will continue, and if we have to do what we have to do, we have to. I'm not hearing you for now.
Okay. Am I still on Instagram?
You sure are.
Okay, great. We got it.
Yay!
Excellent. Yay!
You're frozen on Instagram, but let's see. I might have to figure out what, I have successfully done this, and P.E.R.L.O.V.E, Holly McNeill, I have to invite you again.
There we go.
And it's going to pop up on your phone.
Back. I might get the sound back. Let's see.
We're coming. There we go.
Okay.
So it's flipped.
You're still going to get the sound a little bit, yeah. It flipped me around again. Okay.
What's up, guys? Instagram land, Facebook land, YouTube land.
There we go. You are. We're still getting the sound though. I'm not sure what to do about Instagram. So.
Well, we're going to
maybe
talk
not.
for a few minutes.
Okay.
And then I might just send it. So, guys, woo-hoo! Gosh, Holly McNeill, I love your. You've shared a little bit about your bio, or a little bit about your story within your bio that you shared with me to introduce you. And so many people in life, have those feelings. I've had those feelings as well, like self-absorption, that selfishness, that hiding behind perceived and pursuing
Right.
flaws.
Mm-hmm.
But you had a realization, like a hard realization that sent you down a path of like self-awareness, and like, I no longer wanted to feel like that, so I just stopped.
Right.
So share
Absolutely.
with me like epiphanic moments, experiences that told you what was going on was not what you were supposed to be doing or dictating your future.
Stephanie, John Kabat-Zinn says that very few of us get through life without some type of major trauma. The first 30 years without some type of major trauma or grief, right? And as we're children, we create stories to make it okay. But then we live in those stories and we create our lives through those stories. And I had done just that, like, a lot of people do. And like I said, by age 34, I was in a mutually manipulative marriage. I had made some poor choices. I was anxious. I had everything. And in fact, a friend of mine, when it all blew up, she says, "What are you doing? You have everything anybody could want." And one night I had made some poor choices. I was afraid, and I asked, actually, I'm sitting on the toilet crying in the middle of the night. I will never forget how scared I was, how anxious, how painful it was. And I just said, life, God, Buddha, the universe, anyone out there listening, give me another chance and I'll change. Help me and I'll do better. And I was given that chance and never looked back.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I love that you had, again, like I said, so many people, I mean, they live a similar existence, but it takes them a little while longer. I mean, we're all on a different journey, and there is no right or wrong. It is what it is. But for someone like yourself, for someone like myself, how grateful are you? How incredibly grateful are you that you did have this epiphany that there was something so much greater. Okay, physically speaking, you had A, B, C, D, and E. You checked all the boxes
I
of what
did.
people think a successful life looks like. But you knew
Absolutely.
internally that there was something missing, that there was something so much greater for you.
Actually, you know what? I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that this was there had to be, right? There has to be something. And in making this intention and actually I was so low that and in keeping this intention, just things started to show up. I really, for the first 10 years, I had no idea where I was going. I just knew there had to be something better than where I was.
Absolutely. And, again, through that realization, and it's like I had a similar epiphanic moment. Well, I had been having this, I call it a tugging at
Mm-hmm.
me that was happening for several years. And I'm wide ass open. I mean, you can tell with how I communicate with 1,000 exclamation points that I'm just like, like this big, big, big energy. And so many people that know me, in person and, via online, they see me, on the outside looking in as somebody who's like living, this like out loud life. And that is absolutely
Mm-hmm.
true. But there was still something internally within me where I wasn't playing big enough. Like, because like within me, there was this pull to speak my heart, to speak my truth, to bring what I had been doing for myself for over 20 years to the world, to inspire others. Because I asked you earlier, like, how grateful, like just being so grateful for every experience, every juicy decision, everything I've ever done. Every experience I've ever had has brought me to where I am in this very moment. And there's all gift in all of it.
That's absolutely true. In the class that I do, I say, though your small isolated self tries to keep you afraid and scared, your all pervasive kind of universal self is showing you in every person, place, or thing, every event in your life, how to find your freedom. If you look at it that way. And you're right. I wouldn't wish this life that I had on anyone, right? But I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I change things for my children, of course, if I could. There was an 8-year battle. Once I got out of the manipulative marriage, I came into an 8-year battle for my children to prevent my alienation from my children. But every day it was so hard. And I knew, because I had lived the life it was like repeating my own childhood. I knew how important it was for me to stay in it because my own father was alienated. So in staying in that every single day, it beat the crap out of all of my patterns, right? I had to face it. I had to be strong. And I'm so grateful. Without those 8 years, I wouldn't have gotten here, right? But again, you don't wish them on anyone. So things actually got much worse before they get better. And that can absolutely happen when you start to look for your power,
Yes, absolutely. And as well, in my own personal experience, when the universe, I call it universe energy, my higher self
Right.
is
Mm-hmm.
tapping me on the shoulder, about, like, I have this saying, I've been saying this for years: when you do nothing about a situation long enough,
Mm-hmm.
the universe has a
Yeah.
way of providing an explosion of an experience that forces you to either go left or go right. But if you continue down the same exact road, doing the same thing, you're going to keep running into, and the explosion's going to get worse and worse. And I had
Yeah.
an explosive experience back in 2019 that was like, Stephanie, enough. How many times do I have to provide a similar experience like this for you to
Mm-hmm.
wake the fuck up and
That's
go,
right.
okay, my purpose is greater. I'm supposed to be sharing my voice and my heart. But that was just the beginning. It was still a year or so later when I said, you know what? I have to, whatever is blocking me from really standing in my power and sharing my truth. Hey, Heather! I have to dismantle that. I have to release that so I can expand and bring in what I'm supposed to take in my future and do in the lives of
Right.
myself and in the life of myself and the lives of others.
Well, that's wonderful that you do get that pull. And I started, for, like I said, for the first 10 years, I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I started writing things down around 2009 and knowing that I wanted to share it. But things kind of, everything showed up that I needed. If I had a question, that literally the next thing that I read was the answer. And this is that universal connection that we all have. And if we keep our intention, of course, we can keep connected to that. There was 2 times when I fell off that journey in 20 years, and in the 20 years, and once, I ended up with my second husband, which is, like even worse than my first. So you're right. I call it the perfect storm, right? We keep creating this perfect storm until we do something about it. As I said, I moved across the country, as you wrote and read in my bio, across the country and from coast to coast. But everywhere I went, right, I would come across narcissistic, controlling people, right? At one point, I had this mental table where I sat them all around the table. And then I finally looked at myself. What is this trying to show me? I mean, I literally moved across the country, thousands of miles to get away from looking at it, right? But eventually you do look at it. And when you do, that's when you become free. You get your freedom from it.
What a
And
great
so there's still,
scenario.
yeah, I'm an architect by practice, and I ended up in New York City. And by the time I was doing a large hospital project, there was, a lot of architects who have kind of big egos. So but by that time, I was okay with my own self in that position. So all of those people that I had sat at my table along the way, I understood where they were. I was no longer attached to what they were, to what I was seeing, my stories about them. And so it was okay, because it wasn't them, it was my own stories about what I was seeing through them, right?
Yes. Yes. And when you talk about sitting them all at a table, metaphorically, like in your mind, and you being
Right.
able to see where you were creating and manifesting, these
Mm-hmm.
said
Absolutely.
narcissists, and then
Absolutely.
right, and then flipping the script
Mm-hmm.
on, like, what more awareness, greater awareness you develop for yourself to see
Right.
where that was coming from, why that was happening. Can you share a little bit about that? Like, what was going on with you that you're like, this is shared? what you
So,
realized
so
about
my,
yourself.
yeah, so I talk about in my class how we all have this long black bag that John Kabat-Zinn on a CD Robert Bly he talks of Robert Bly, who just passed away recently. He's a poet about the long black bag we drag behind us, right? And when we're young, we take parts of us that we think aren't acceptable and we stuff them in this bag. And as we get older, we continue to stuff these parts of us that we think people don't like, and good girls don't do that, good boys don't behave that way. And then we forget what we stuffed in the bag in the first place. So then we start to doubt ourselves. I'm not worthy. I'm not, my big thing was not being worthy and not being lovable, right? And so all of these people would that started with my mother, then my ex-husband, then it's changed to some of my bosses. And, as I got closer to New York City, there's more and more of them, but more, they're just showing me that I can't get my worth out of them, right? I have to stop. I have to stop the story. It's only every time I looked at them and thought that they were being unfair to me or whatever, I was reinforcing that unworthiness in my own life, right? So I had to stop. I had to change the pattern. I had to change the story. So, and when I did, then whatever, and when I did, it really wasn't about me. Their behaviors weren't about me at all, right?
Right. No. Yes.
So
Guys,
freeing.
so freeing. Yes. Guys, how empowered. I love that. That's such an empowering story of realizing I am responsible. I am, regardless, we all have a story. So here,
We do.
we all have a story. We all have experiences that absolutely 100% create our mindset. Okay. And our mindset is tied to our heart set. So mindset and heart set, and that creates our behaviors. But if your behaviors and your reality based upon your behaviors, based upon what's going on here, if what you're seeing and what you're experiencing is not what you want or what you desire or is painful, you can change it. And by asking the questions, I love what you said you were writing down in 2009. Share with us some of the things that you were writing down, some of the questions that you were asking that eventually gave you this epiphany that you were creating.
In 2005, I wrote a journal, and I've moved, like I said, by the time I moved from New York to San Francisco, I had a pod that was 7 foot wide, or 5 foot wide, 7 foot deep, and 8 foot high. That had everything I owned in it, right? And I still kept this journal from 2005. And when I looked back at it, it was like, are you worthless, right? You must be worthless because nobody loves you. You must be worthless, right? And so I saw that back then, but what the writing did for me overall, like I said, every time I had a question, it was like a big unraveling, right? And I had this huge kind of epiphany, probably right during the COVID pandemic, when I read a book that was actually the book, You Can Be Happy No Matter What, by Dr. Richard Carlson, who wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. It's actually based on a book from the 80s. And, if you Google it, we have between 6,000 and 70,000 thoughts a day, right? 80% of these are negative, right? And so we've been training ourselves for years in these negative patterns. And so this is what we know. This is what we're familiar with. So we have to, in realizing that we have to become familiar with something else. In fact, the Buddhist term for meditation, the Tibetan word for meditation is gom. And what it actually means is to become familiar with your mind, to become familiar with what is already there, right? So one of the things that was so amazing for me is when I kept looking at these different teachers and gurus, I looked everywhere. I looked in Buddhism, I looked in secular spirituality. They all seem to be pointing back to a few simple truths, right? Which is that we're not our TEF, which I call our TEF, our thoughts, emotions, and feelings, right? We're caught up in that, in our TEF, but we're not our TEF. We are so much more than that. And so the whole goal of the practices is to help people to become familiar with the TEF that they're kind of living by out of their black bag, right? and to recognize it for what it is so that they can actually see past it to this amazing kind of powerful, peaceful nature that is inherent to being human. And when all of these teachers and gurus all kind of started pointing back to the same thing, it just blew me away, right? And so my goal, or like I said, these practices basically appeared in all my writing. So in jotting all these things down, I literally looked over one day and they were there. And and as you said, you have this yearning to show people how not to have to spend 20 years going across the country and from coast to coast to find that freedom. So.
Right. Tef, thoughts, emotions, feelings. Wow, that is genius. And I love like the analogy of the black bag. Everyone has a black bag that they're stuffing. It's like stuffing your emotions, stuffing I'm not good enough, stuffing girls should be seen and not heard, stuffing little boys are mean. I mean, it's not even just from our parents. It's like it's what our society, it's like what we see out here is like teaching us. And wow, when you said 80%, even for people that are on this intentional path, there's these loops, there's these hardwired loops of thought patterns. And I work so diligently, like I have a subliminal program running in the background right now that it's flashing like these words of something that I'm specifically working on. And, it is all about that subconscious mind and reprogramming subconscious mind. And we have these, these, like even for myself, these automatic patterns of negativity, these automatic patterns of fear, these automatic patterns of scarcity, but what you can do is just having the awareness that you're having those thoughts instead of even allowing yourself to be victim of them. And then, all guys are assholes. All this is happening to me. This is bullshit. Instead of, okay, I know where that comes from. I know what experiences I've had in the past. So how do I, because there are other realities simultaneously. There are other realities where those realities don't exist in someone's life. So that means that there's infinite possibilities. So how can I have the reality that I desire, which is the happy, the healthy, the inspired, the fulfilled, happy life filled with joy, elated excitement, passion.
Right. I have these forum classes that are kind of a deeper dive into these. And the next series I'm going to do is called Simple and Obvious. Which people can get resistance to that, right? It's like, it can't be this simple and obvious, right? But what I tell people is two of the most important words I learned during my Buddhist study wouldn't be what you think they would be, right? But they are familiarity and habituation, right? So what we're familiar with, we do these patterns, right? When we have these thoughts over and over, 80% are negative, they actually send emotions down to our body. Emotions are our physical response in our body. And each one of our cells has receptors, thousands of receptors. And so for years, if you have this anxiety, you've been feeding these cells anxiety, and as the cell splits, there's more of them. So even your body then sends messages back to your brain to be anxious or unhappy. And that's because that is the pattern. That's what we're familiar with, right? And we said, once you make it a habit, it happens automatically without paying attention, without this awareness. You're just living in it every day. And then you try to fight it, which doesn't only makes it stronger. So the whole set of practices is a whole kind of step-by-step on how to unravel what I call the happiness thief who lives in your bag, right? All these thoughts, emotions, and feelings create this ego, this false identity, which I call the happiness thief. And so what you want to do is unravel the happiness thief, seeing through your painful stories and seeing what lies beneath, which is amazing.
Absolutely. Happiness thief. How many happiness thieves? And, you know, and one of my a girlfriend of mine, I love what she says. She goes, "I call it stealing my minutes. Don't let so and so or such and such steal your minutes. Our minutes
Right.
are precious."
Mm-hmm. We
So
get,
talk about,
this
yeah.
is,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
there's this, they call it the monkey mind, right? And I'm sure you've heard that before, where if you can be out, Adyashanti, who's an American-born spiritual teacher, wonderful, wonderful teacher, talks about when you're out on a beach, right? And you're enjoying the sun and it's beautiful, and you get into an argument with someone and everything collapses into that moment, right? And you lose a lot of your time and you lose a lot of,
Yes.
and so if so what we need to train ourselves in awareness. We need to train ourselves to catch those things so that we can from a place of awareness, you can look at them with wisdom.
Train ourselves.
There we
There
go.
you go. I hit a button. I'm writing down notes, and I accidentally hit take out a train
So all of this,
ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, all of this is in the class, and like I said to you, there is a link for a free hour-long class, and all of this is in the class because I'm happy to share it with everyone. But yeah, we need to train ourselves to see those things as they come up, so that there's space, right? We use all of our space with all of this TEF, and so when it's kind of like a ball that's like super wound tight. And when you first try to unknot it, it's going to be hard. You're going to meet with resistance. The happiness thief is not going down without a fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you start to unravel it, you start to see these moments. You get these aha moments coming through, and when you do, I call them glimpses. They're to be celebrated. Glimpses are to be celebrated because it means a new pathway formed. There's a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know?
Girl, I talk about that all the time.
Yay!
What the bleep do we know? Go ahead.
Watch it. Watch that movie. And what I tell people, if there's anything that you want to learn, and if there's anything you want to learn, you need to listen to it over and over and over and over again. And in the movie, John, as you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza tells us that nerve cells that fire together wire together. Right? And creating this neural net, right? Long-term relationships with anxiety, all these 80% of emotions and our thoughts, emotions, and feelings we've been having for years, right? But when nerve cells no longer fire together, they no longer wire together, right? Starting to break that up and creating this space. I love that you've watched that movie. I've seen it at least, 20 times or something like that.
Girl, me frickin' too. And,
yeah.
To expound upon what he says, when he talks about how the brain does not know that what it sees, if it's actually happening or if it's just a thought process. All your brain knows is what's going on with inside the thought, whether you're actually looking at something happening or whether you're creating it in your mind. That in and of itself, to expound upon what you were just saying, is so incredibly important and powerful in how we create our reality. I have a Facebook user from my private DeFi Rickenlicious and you group saying my husband freaking loves that movie. We watched it a lot. Girl, I've seen that movie 1,000 doggone times. I talk about that movie all the time. I was just talking about it last week.
That's funny. Yes, I love it. Yeah. Yes. What I love about it, he says that it gives us the example of Columbus's ships, right? And Columbus, the natives couldn't see the ships because your brain can't see what it's not familiar with, right? So on one hand, if you're unfamiliar with something, you can't see it, right? But equally, there's the example of Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule that says if you do something 10,000 times, you're going to be an expert at it. But if you become too familiar with something, it becomes habit and you do it automatically without paying attention. Right. So this whole thing of familiarity and what you train your brain to know is super powerful. I go to bed at night and I just go love and support. I know affirmations, right? They get a bad rap. I get it. And they don't work at first, of course, because they're not a pattern. They're not wired in our brain. Right. But if you keep, I go to bed at night, love and support, and you wake up feeling that love and support. It takes time, of course. And a lot of people give up if it doesn't happen right away, which is why I say, if you watch that movie, watch it over and over and over. I got this CD, like I said, by Jon Kabat-Zinn, 10 years into my journey, by this wonderful therapist. And I listened to it over and over, and I transcribed it and I memorized it.
I'm sorry. You said that the movie, this is another movie we're talking about.
This is a CD by Jon Kabat-Zinn.
Okay.
Another thing I listened to, there's the first thing, and 10 years into my journey, and I'm so sorry I can't tell you the name of it because it was pirated. Sorry, John.
Oh, okay. 10 years. Okay, so 10 years into your journey, it's not called 10 years into my journey. Oh,
no. It's just a mindfulness. I mean, I have it transcribed. I can probably tell you about it, but then I lost it in all of my moves. So, and then I looked through all his CDs to figure out which one it is. So if anyone out there knows Jon Kabat-Zinn, please tell I'm trying to figure out which one this is. But in listening to it over and over, he says the my thoughts are extra, right? And he talks about the long black bag. But the only reason I know it is because I listened to it over and over and over and over again and rewired that part of the brain. Because if you just do something once, you have to listen to something 3 times to even remember what it was, really. 8 times minimum for it to really sink in. So that would be my biggest message. Anything that opens your heart or helps you in any way, you need to repeatedly listen to it over and over.
Yes. And the thing about, yes. And I often say that we are all, every person on the planet, we are all brainwashed and hypnotized by the way in which we live our daily lives. Right. Wouldn't you rather be hypnotized and brainwashed by those habits that are serving you, that are growing you, that are empowering you? And and I wanted to say something about something you just said, and I've lost my train of thought.
Well, while you're saying that, that the happiness that you call it, brainwash, but I call it the happiness thief, right? So this conditioning, these patterns, right? And
you call it the happiness seed?
Thief, the happiness thief.
Oh, the happiness thief. Okay.
Yep, stealing your happiness. Right?
Well, when I'm saying brainwashed and hypnotized, that's bad. That's all. That's the whole gamut. Like how we live, how every human being lives their daily life is a pattern. And the emphasis on the words that I choose to use, brainwash and hypnotized, or it's the power over how what we do every day is so strong. And in order to create a new habit or a new paradigm of thought, a new paradigm of being and living, you have to work on how you are being brainwashed and hypnotized. And like you said, it takes over and over and over and over and over and over and over doing, watching, listening. And another thing about what you said was like I'm having I'm having technical difficulties. I keep showing that we're going from Wi-Fi to being hardwired, which I don't understand because I'm hardwired and it keeps distracting me. I keep seeing the Wi-Fi.
I get it. I get it.
But anyway, it'll come back to me. Keep going.
Yeah. So I talk about, there's a story of a monk, who was busy building a temple. And as he got busy with construction delays and cost overruns, he didn't have time for his daily practice, right? We can get bogged down by our daily practice. It's too much, and if you don't do it, if it's not right, you get bogged down with it. So he went to his guru and he said, look, I'm really worried. I don't have time to do my daily practice. And his guru said, it's no problem. All you need is 6 minutes a day, right? So I tell people you start there, and we talk about having to retrain and redo all of this, but if you start by 1 minute, 6 times a day, just taking a deep breath and just watching, right? You're just watching what's going on in your mind. You gain awareness. And if you do that consistently for 3 to 4 weeks, you'll start watching it automatically, right? That becomes habit. It starts to happen automatically. And then it's not so hard to kind of move. I tell people it's like an ocean liner, right? And we've been sending it this way for however many years until you don't want it. And then you have to move it, right? And it takes time to turn an ocean liner around, right? But you can start with 1 minute times a day. And then you're with that awareness, then you're starting to pay attention to what's catching, what habits or what patterns you're getting caught in.
I remember, and to that point, I remember what I was thinking about is like when we're
Great.
talking about affirmations, and you mentioned them. People give up because they're not working. I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. Okay,
Right.
it's not about you saying I'm a millionaire 1,000 times. It's about what does it feel like in your life? How does it feel to be a millionaire? There is this peace of mind. There is this freedom, this bliss, this euphoric, fabulousness. So feeling that, and it's that which brings those feelings. So you have to tie whatever affirmation or what you say you want, and you have to really feel into what that would feel like. And have you ever heard of the Silva mind method?
No.
Luis, Dr. Silva, act as if. Act as if. It's like being and feeling into that which you are wanting to create, if it's not an actual physical manifestation in your present life. And it's like you said, Holly, like over and over and over and over and repeatedly, like sitting in my sacred space every day, writing. I've gotten written down certain things that I want to have happen in my life. I've got written everywhere, but I also take that time every single day, multiple times a day, to feel myself in that specific reality, feeling, not just saying it, but feeling what that's like, because there's a reason that you want said thing, regardless of what it is. It's about a feeling that you anticipate it bringing you.
That's right. So when I talk about thoughts, emotions, and feelings, right, and we actually you can catch yourself doing this. You wake up in the morning and then you look to your feelings to see how your day is. Well, if 80% of those are negative, it's going to be negative a lot of the time. And as I said, when we have all of these, when we create positive thoughts, right, we start to create positive, actually changing the cells of our body. And this is again from Dr. Joe, that we start to create receptors in our body for joy or abundance, and from that the messages come back. And so the universe tends to move in that way, right? If you're bogged down, your entire mind and body can be bogged down with all this negativity. And so if you're kind of like flushing it out, you're changing the program so that the next time, when you start to wake up in the morning, there'll come a time when you wake up in the morning and the scale is tipped, and all of a sudden you're feeling energetic or optimistic, and things show up, right? And probably these things have been showing up anyway, right? But you're more aware so that you can react to them, right?
Yeah.
Fabulous. It's a great journey. Being human is actually a great, amazing journey if we learn to train the mind. Train the mind, which is a tool, right? In Buddhism, they call it merely a tool, right? That we have control over. And then we train the heart by opening our heart and actually seeing this amazing flow of energy that we've been that we've been using through our thoughts to create our world. And it's entirely possible. And so, one of my big pushes is to, people can feel really desperate and lost, but I was exactly that. And it's entirely possible to find your way. It's not actually that hard. In the book, it's a crazy book from the 1980s called Sanity, Insanity, and Common Sense.
Oh, right? I love that. Hold that up. Somebody screenshot that. Sanity, Insanity, and Common Sense.
A grand brute. Yeah, and you can't even get this book anymore. It's out of print, but the book, You Can Be Happy No Matter What, from Dr. Richard Carlson, is based off of these teachings. And in it, Dr. Suarez says that it's almost too simple and obvious, right? It's just about, as you think, so shall you be, right? And if you practice, whatever you practice becomes your world, because we are that powerful. We are actually that powerful.
And you mentioned spirituality across the board, like at the very beginning of our episode. And even in the Bible, it's written, whatever ye want, if ye believe, ye shall receive.
That's
And
right.
that statement, that verse in and of itself is the power of the mind to create whatever it is.
The power of if you think about it, I mean, I'm 34 years old, I'm miserable, and I wanted something better. And I kept that intention. And I cannot, I'm so thankful to be here where I am today. And things show up, things do show up, because you're right. Your mind is absolutely that powerful. And so the formula I have is in two parts. Pledge, evaluate, recognize is the PER. And that's training the mind, where we start to pledge to watch our mind, evaluate these patterns in our bag, and then recognize them. And then so even if you're not spiritual or religious, this thing, there's a teacher called Tim Olmsted. He's the president of the Pema Chodron Foundation, and he says that if you're wearing yellow glasses, you see a yellow world. If you're wearing black glasses, you see a black world. If your heart is open and happy, you see a joyful world. And that's not religion or spirituality. That's just how it is. That's right. It's just how it is.
I'm sure you've read the book E Squared, right?
No, I have not read that book.
Oh, E, it's like the letter E and then the number 2, E Squared. And it's exactly to a T what you're talking about. From it doesn't matter whether you're atheist, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, whether you're nothing, where you're absolutely everything, doesn't matter. It's about your mind. If you like today, I'm going to see red GMC trucks. And everywhere you turn, there's a red GMC truck. I did the experiment. One of the experiments was I'll see yellow butterflies today. Well, for the next 48 hours, I did not see during that 48 hours yellow butterflies. But, girl, everywhere I turned, the this bright yellow color was apparent. I mean, everywhere I turned. I mean, so I'm at the gym and I'm on the elliptical, and they have a series of TVs up, and on HGTV, whatever they're doing at somebody's home, there were bright yellow umbrellas. They could have been purple, they could have been green, they could have been multicolored, but everything was bright yellow. And I saw bright yellow, like everywhere. And it was overwhelming. Where your attention flows, energy goes, you get what you focus on.
Right.
And you are, meaning you're constantly seeing it. You're seeing it. If you think the world is a shitty, fucked up place, that's what you're going to experience. And you're going to,
and it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then your world is, as you said, everyone has a different reality, right? So then your world is a shitty, fucked up place, right? But if you think that it's joyful and we're all here to learn, and it's funny you mentioned the book E2, and I haven't read it, right? But as I said, throughout my whole journey and all the different teachers and gurus, they all kind of point back to the same truths. These are basic truths about how the mind works, about how our connection to how we create our world. Because you're right, we each individually create our world. We see it differently. It's another principle in this book, and also in the one in Richard Carlson's book. There's no way that you and I even see the same world, right?
Right.
But so even though I haven't read that book, it all along the way, which is why the practices I made all came together, because everything's pointing back to these few simple things. We're not our TEF, we're not our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. Thoughts alone are powerless, right? And if we don't engage in them, right, they have no choice but to fall apart, leaving us space to explore what our true nature, which is peaceful, wise, and abundant.
Yes. If you choose, and
if you choose your awareness, you have to be aware of this.
And people, will complain, but Stephanie, nothing. Just decide. I get that your reality and my reality are completely different. That's another reason, and this, not to go off on another completely different tangent, but that's another reason why I go out of my way and I try not to judge those that think and who think differently than me, because I know we all have a lived reality. but
Right.
I'm still going to be me, and I'm still going to be putting myself out here, in the world to show that I am a representation of what it is, that I do embody what it is that I'm out here, spewing. And, but, to that point is, yes, I get it. We all have had painful experiences, some way unfathomably worse than others.
Of
And
course.
especially if they started in childhood, if you never were loved, or if you were abused, I get, there is a reality and a frame of reference.
There
Um,
is.
but because there is the possibility that's, it is a possibility that you can still love yourself, see the value and your worth and amazing fabulousness that you are, because you are. And
Absolutely.
when you start to operate, and then all of a sudden your mindset shifts, as you were saying, like the neural nets start wiring differently and start
Differently,
firing
right.
differently. And then thereby you are creating a reality that is different, that is mirroring a new paradigm of thought and feeling.
New patterns, right? New
Yeah,
patterns.
new
Because
patterns.
as Tim Olmsted, he's an amazing teacher, talks about, this is our inheritance, right? This peace, this wisdom, joy, loving kindness, compassion. The only problem is that we don't recognize it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, a
So,
girlfriend of mine has a saying: you can't see the label from inside the jar. You can't read the label from inside the
right.
jar.
That's right. When you're stuck in your own thought system, when you're stuck in that reality, you can't see it. Which is why I tell people, take a leap of faith that you are separate from your thoughts, emotions, and feelings. Think of it as the thoughts, emotions, and feelings highway with all the horns honking and the sounds and the smell. Basically, you want to be on the easy chair next to the highway, watching it all go by, right? And the more space you can create between you and your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, the more you see it for what it is, right? Those things are going to come up. Those are your patterns, but you can respond to them with wisdom. When you create that space, when you get out of the jar, right? You can see the jar, it's there, it's still there, it comes up, but you can respond with wisdom, and it doesn't impact you. You're less attached to it. And it's fabulous. It's fantastic. Highly recommended.
Highly recommend, y'all. So I have a couple people over in my DFLNY private group that have been commenting, and thank you all for being here. Heather Workman, she's so fabulous. She's coming on Empowered Conversations next month.
Yay.
So tell us again, I have your website linked here. So tell us some more about how people can find you, work with you, and sign up for your free 1 hour class.
Right. Great. So yeah, my website is P.E.R.L.O.V.E.formula.com. And if you go to the website, or there's also a link, if you sign up for the newsletter, it'll send you a welcome email that links you directly to a YouTube video that's only by link. And it's a full hour class it's an introduction. It's called The Lost Formula to Happiness, and I call it that because the formula to happiness has been lost within each one of us, right?
Yes.
Our inherent nature has been lost. So these practices are a way to get you back there. But all you need to do is you sign up for the newsletter. I send every month. I go through each letter, a little insight on each letter. But once you sign up for the newsletter, you have access to this full hour class explaining each of the practices and how to work through them. I also have an in-depth forum for those people that really want to dig into it and make it a practice. It's very low cost, like $25 a month. We meet twice a month on each letter. And mostly, like you said, I'm wanting to get this out there. I spent a long time, looking and searching for this. And it seems, as people say, that it seems friendly and doable. So, and it starts with 6 minutes a day. So yeah, absolutely. Just sign up for the newsletter. The link will come and it's all there for you.
Perfect. Now, did you accept my invitation to join Deefa Rick and Licious and you? Because there are people like this is being broadcast in there, and I would love for you to go everywhere that this broadcast is. Because when I end the broadcast, it will be in the group, on my private page, through YouTube, and post the links to this so people can sign up.
Okay.
I've got the link to your website.
Okay.
But this is something specific.
So was this in the email that I was supposed to sign up for it, or?
No. I would have sent you and I would have invited you. You might have got a notification. Rick and Licious and you.
Yeah. Is this an Instagram or is this an?
No, this is Facebook. This is my private Facebook group.
Oh,
and
I think
I've
I did.
tried to make
If
it.
not, I will.
Okay, yeah, you'll see people. You'll get comments. You'll get notifications for comments because again, someone here, Jarala Carol Boston. I don't know if that's Carol Boston. Hey, girl, if it's you, Carol Boston, she is so fabulous. She's the one who has that saying. You can't read the label from inside the jar.
Right.
But if you're commenting from my Facebook group, because it's private, and I've tried to change it to public. But after you create a private group, it doesn't let you change the privacy settings. So I don't see their name. It just says Facebook user. But thank you so much for everyone to be here today. And what an empowering conversation. I so apologize about all the technical difficulties. I have no idea what's going on. I'm hardwired into my modem, so I should not be having Wi-Fi pop up. But something's definitely going on. I hope that this was a good broadcast. I can tell that a few of you definitely got something out of it and were able to correspond and engage. And I just really appreciate everybody being here today.
Yes. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It's been, and it sounds, like I said, there's a few simple truths, Stephanie, and you're right on it, right? And the more we can get this out to people to realize how straightforward and doable this is, that's what we're all here to do. It's that life is, this human experience is all about finding that power and freedom. So thank you so much for having me today. It's been wonderful.
You are so welcome. It's been an absolute honor to have you here. And guys, I have to say, look at her artwork. I love her artwork in the back of her house. I love funky artwork in her. It's just love. I know you said that you had created something. Was it the love that you created?
No, sorry. Let me go the wrong way. This is a picture from Park City, Utah.
Yes.
The heart up in the back is basically just a picture of some pine needles and a little heart leaf that I blew up really large. But no, I have the love around my house everywhere, just those messages. It's usually very bright. Well, it's kind of bright. It's raining here in Southern California today, but no, it's a great space. And again, right, you create the life. This house wasn't even for sale, and it's so hard to buy a house. And they, the renters let us in, and so really, I have one of Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, right? I'm open to the abundance of the universe, and I lovingly allow myself to accept it, right? And people can kind of get upset about that, like, how can you say that? But there's an abundance, right? And if you're just open to it, you will find your way. And absolutely, there's pain, and people. I mean, I have chronic pain. There's so many lessons here, and you can either look at them, and you can either be stuck in your bag with all your isolated self, or you can look at everything that's happening to you and ask you, what is this showing me to set myself free?
Oh, I love that. You can look. You can either stay stuck in your bag. That's a writer downer. You can either stay stuck in your bag, or you can look at it. What is it I can free myself from?
All right. What is it showing me? What am it showing me to set myself free? Right. And then a lot of times it's your beliefs. A lot of times it's showing you your negative beliefs. Right. And so, yeah, you can change those. I'm open to the abundance of the universe, and I lovingly allow myself to accept it. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's been, even coming on this podcast today has been one of those blessings, another opening to these practices. So fabulous.
Well, God, you say right here, Holly, guys, thank you so much for watching. There's been so many bullet points, so many, I call them gold nugget moments throughout the entirety of this episode. And excuse me, share this episode with your friends, share empowered conversations. And if you have an incredible, empowering, inspiring story, and you would like to come on and share that with myself and my audience, please, I'd love to have an empowered conversation with you. So till next Wednesday, everybody, have a wonderful Fall-Rickin week. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.